That's it, everybody. I think we're going to get started, and as people trickle in, we'll welcome them, and we welcome the folks who are joining us on Zoom, and we certainly welcome Tammi. Did you say Houton or Houton?
Houton.
Houton.
Yep.
From Nourishing Bethesda. Tammi, I'm going to read your bio from Nourishing Bethesda, so just to give a little bit of introduction to who you are.
Okay.
Some folks may recognize and know Tammi from having worked at Nourishing Bethesda. She has been there at least the time I went. You were helping to organize us,
Yes.
and I know maybe even the time before when our group went. She has been with Nourishing Bethesda from the beginning as an advisor in mid-2020, which is when the organization got started, right?
Yes. Yep.
Joining officially May 2021. After 20 years in corporate marketing, she stepped back to focus her time and energies on raising her 3 daughters, and had been, during that time, was an active volunteer in her daughter's schools, soccer teams, and Girl Scout troops. Girls on the Run teams.
That's true.
And then she began to, as her children got older, began to focus her energy on issues she's most passionate about: food insecurity and food waste. And so for the past 7 years has worked and volunteered with several different nonprofit organizations, including Nourishing Bethesda, Community Food Rescue, and Nourish Now. Some of us will remember we used to work with Nourish Now.
I gave a presentation on Nourish Now.
Did you give a presentation?
5 years pre-pandemic? Yes.
On Nourish Now.
Yeah, it feels like a decade ago, but
That's
yes.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. So, we welcome you this morning, and I'm going to start us with a word of prayer. Good and gracious God, as we gather on this Lord's Day to celebrate creation care and think about ways that we can be caregivers to creation and the earth, I pray that you will stir in us a renewed conscience of how best we can be in relationship with you and all of your beautiful creation. I pray that your Spirit would be our teacher and our guide this day. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, and good morning.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to be here. Earth Day, I was a little, we're not directly aligned with the environment per se, and then Chris brought to me that he feels that taking care of our people on Earth is an important part of Earth Day.
Yeah.
And that really resonated with me. And so I appreciate the opportunity. I will speak to some of our food recovery and some things that actually really do relate to, say, eliminating waste and some things. But anyway, we're happy to be here, and we're happy to engage with Potomac Presbyterian. We've had 2 packing nights. And to my record, the first time you guys came was in October of 23. And so since then, you've packed some snack bags for our families. And today we're packing weekend bags. I'm going to really talk about that initiative in a little bit in our program. So thank you for what you've done so far. And we are just happy to be in partnership with you. I should say also another exciting connection that we have is that the Harvest Share plot that you sponsor, all of your produce is coming to our families, our clients. So there's a really nice connection. And that took Tracy and I a while to figure that out. We didn't realize, we knew Harvest Share, and she said, where are we with Harvest Share? And then it was like, Kat, we were like, wait, okay, that's cool. That's great. So it's yours as well. So I'm going to fluctuate between some really busy slides and some not so busy slides. So just bear with me and know that I'll take the words. I don't need that up. I was going to put that at the table. That's a nice little thing, but might be distracting and in the way.
Might be in the way of the screen.
Okay, so there you guys are. That's the first one, October 2023. You came. That's you in our upstairs. So we are located at we operate out of the Bethesda Chevy Chase Rescue Squad, right at Old Georgetown and Battery Lane. And we kind of rent that space 3 days a week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We distribute food to our clients on Thursdays and Fridays, and the group packing that you've engaged with us have been our Thursday night packing, where we receive all of our food from Capillary Food Bank, Sudanos, different food distributors. And we are upstairs in this large banquet hall where we pack our shelf stable and our produce bags. So this is an example of when you were there. So our mission is to fight food insecurity in our area by providing nutritious food and community support to our neighbors in needs, as well as offering and linking our clients to wraparound resources that will enable them to build healthier and more stable lives. And so I think one of the things you'll hear me resonate, keep going back to is I'm going to define for you food insecurity versus hunger, et cetera, right? Food insecurity is a product of folks that are struggling on a lot of levels, right? And food is often where at the end of the day, it hits. So if they have to pay rent or their car payment or a medical bill, whatever it might be, food often is the last of the line. And so we're the end of the line, meaning we work with Feeding America, Capillary Food Bank, these larger food providers, but we are the ones putting it into their hands, and we get to know our clients really well. And so it isn't just about providing food, but making them feel seen in their community, and also trying to allow them to reach into resources that will build for them healthier and more stable lives. So from the beginning, we've identified a central part of our mission, not just to deliver food, but caring and community, which I basically just said, but a priority also on developing volunteerism in our community, offering rich volunteer opportunities of all abilities and backgrounds. And we do take very seriously deepening the understanding, not just of legislators, but also the public, children, et cetera. I think sometimes in our little bubble here, our kids, it's really hard for them to see some of what is really going on, even right near them, about food insecurity issues. So we take that very seriously. Quick snapshot of Nourishing Bethesda. You kind of heard it already. We were founded in August 2020. It was a part of the men's ministry of St. John's Norwood Episcopal Church, the one that's located at Bradley and Wisconsin Boulevard. That is the origins of Nourishing Bethesda. And they were looking at the images that we all saw in the pandemic of miles of lines of cars, and having trouble sourcing food, and folks like really not feeling capable of even going into a grocery store. And they partnered with the rescue squad, and we were grab and go is what it was called, our first iteration. So people pulled up in their car, they opened their trunk, and we threw food in their trunk. It was almost all federally subsidized food, right? The government really pumped food out there. And when it was hard to source food, the distributors and the restaurant, everything was kind of shut down. It was really through that channel that enough food was getting out for food pantries to provide. So that is the beginnings of Nourishing Bethesda. Then as the world kind of evolved, 22 is what I have. Hi, how are you? As a benchmark for the next phase, but that goes into 23, but we evolved to get our own 501c3. We disconnected formally from St. John's. They're still sort of our benchmark, their support. We have our food pantry, our larger sorting food drive pantry still at St. John's. But we're formally our own 501c3. We established a board, and we became an official food assistance provider within Montgomery County, and we're in the county operating budget. So I will tell you, as the federal subsidies wound down and a lot of folks that were putting out food, when the federal subsidies went away, it became a little bit of they had to decide who was going to stay, because a lot of organizations stood up in that time, and they needed to, and it was a wonderful thing. And we'll talk about this a little bit more, but we were uniquely located in a spot that didn't have a lot of support. So there are areas in our county of really known established need, right? Up County, East County, some of Mid County, and the Bethesda, Chevy coming over into Potomac. They don't need, right? Well, the truth is, in those other areas, there's a lot of longstanding nonprofits and kind of in conjunction with each other, et cetera. And in our area, actually, there was quite a void. And I think everybody knows that Montgomery County is evolving, but the truth is, our area has evolved and there wasn't a lot of support. If you really needed something, you were driving to Rockville or taking a bus or heading over to Wheaton, et cetera. So I think the county really was amazed at the trust and the relationships that we had built out in that parking lot. And that these were clients that were willing to transition and come in and be a part of us. And they had tried to stand up at their regional service centers a couple times and just really didn't get traction. And so that's just sort of a unique part of Nourishing Bethesda. So created just a few years ago to address the urgent short-term needs, we stand today as really one of the fastest growing food insecurity organizations in our region. We pride ourselves on developing our community and also adapting and continuing to evolve to meet the needs of our clients. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Before we get there, this is really busy. So let's just put the map aside so you're not like, what is going on there? What I want you to see here, this is from Feeding America, the Capillary Food Bank, the DMV hunger heat map. And I zoomed way in instead of the whole region so that you could see Bethesda, North Bethesda, here we are over in Potomac, et cetera. What I often hear first thing is people in Bethesda don't need food, right? It's an affluent area, et cetera. So not trying to belabor a kind of a busy map, but to just show you, indeed, yes, right? Bethesda's right here. Here you are in North Bethesda and you start to head up, you get over there into Kensington, et cetera. It's known in the hunger community, Feeding America, like, yes, indeed, there are definite pockets in our immediate area that are definitely in need of food. So that is why I bring up this crazy map. But let's change the definition a little bit. Let's define what food insecurity is. So hunger is defined as like an individual level physiological condition that may result from food insecurity. So I think that's important, is to talk about the difference between, say, like hunger. And while food insecurity is the more technical term for household level economic and social condition of limited or uncertain access to adequate food. So they're really kind of two things. It isn't that everybody who comes to us is in a state of hunger, distress, famine, but in addressing food insecurity, really, you're sort of at the end of the line of that tip of the iceberg of everything underneath that their household is experiencing, be it a medical crisis that has undermined them, be it, a change in a family composition, et cetera. Food insecurity is really about a lot of things, but at the end of the day, providing people food can really solve a lot of stress and problems in their weekly life. So, okay, again, I felt I wanted to come. I wanted to educate you. I'm going to break this crazy slide. Probably should have made it 3, but I'm going to take it really slow. So up at the top here, I'm still in the Feeding America 2023 for the DMV, just so you're wondering my sources. Food insecurity in our region, more than 1 million people. And when I say region, we're talking the DMV. This is the Capillary Food Bank, Feeding America. This is their report for 2023. And I think it's really important to put 2023 numbers because it took a long time to get post-pandemic numbers, which made all of our data really dicey, right? Because what was it like in 2020 versus where we were at when we were coming out of the pandemic? These really are the first comprehensive numbers, and it required an organization as large as like Feeding America to do some primary research on its own because the census hasn't caught up, et cetera. Like, if you're trying to look at traditional data sources, they're old. So Feeding America, more than 1 million people in our region are food insecure, and nearly 1/3 of them are children. Individuals facing food insecurity, which is not too surprising, but they're twice as likely to have chronic health conditions, right, that further compound and limit their daily activities than they're food secure. So be it limiting them from being able to work in their full capacity, et cetera. It all compounds and makes things harder for folks. So when you look at in our area, Montgomery County is right right here. So, are we doing a little better than Alexandria and DC and PG and some things? Yes, we are, but we are behind both Fairfax and Arlington in terms of our food insecure percentage. And while we are one of the wealthiest counties in the nation, we have it's very stuck. 27% has been there. And even as the overall economic picture's improved and unemployment in our county has plummeted to 1.5%, the food insecurity rate is worse now than it was reported in the height of the pandemic. And I will point out to you the 1.5% unemployment. That in like economic terms basically means full employment. Like, the 1.5 at that point, anybody who wants a job, like they're out there, it's full. As a matter of fact, they're, we're talking about firms that are saying they can't get people to fill jobs. I think we all see and hear that a lot. So the reason why I emphasize that is these are working families. Have no doubt these are not folks that aren't working unless there's a reason why they can't. But in our area in particular, the cost of living, et cetera, it's really hard for people to pay these rents. I have a 23-year-old who's, and it's shocking what an apartment costs. She's a nurse and that's a great professional job, but you know what? It's really hard to pay Montgomery County rental rates with being a professional nurse. Yes.
Tammi, that last sentence is so striking. Food insecurity is worse now than at the height of the pandemic.
That's very true.
So is that because prices have gone up?
Yeah, it's really a combination. And it was really 2023 was just a really brutal year for a lot of our clients. It was the combination. They rolled back the federal SNAP benefits. They rolled back the child tax credits that they had extended. The inflation went through the roof. It was a combination of a lot of things that, so that the issues where like people were afraid or for their health reasons, they were going and getting food and some of these grabbing, those things went away. But when people came out and all of those things that had been built up to try to keep families buoyed during the pandemic, like just over that year got stripped away, and economically, with the inflation and whatnot, there's a housing shortage. There's not enough affordable housing in our area, et cetera. So that is true. And so for those of us in the food assistance provider space, it's trying to make sure that the county and everyone stays with us because, a lot of money is being put towards food, but the reality is it needs to be even more so. So the council is going to be voting on their budget soon, and all of the major food assistance providers have been lobbying for a little bit higher cost of living increase for our services, because it isn't as if food has gotten any less expensive if you've been at the store. So yes.
So I'm interested in, you're saying nearly a third of the folks in Montgomery County who are insecure, food insecure, are children.
Yeah.
Do you know how many are seniors? I'm just curious on the other end of the.
Yes. So, we support a couple senior buildings. I'm going to talk about that. I can't quote you that stat. I'm sorry, off the top of my head. I pulled this one out and I want to make sure this is the regional Feeding America number.
Oh, right.
I will show you the children rate for Montgomery County because there's a big initiative right now. Seniors are really struggling. The benefits that they were having also really, really got cut. So we actually deliver food to 2 low-income senior high-rises in Bethesda every week. And so we do try to focus on that need as well. Yeah. I'm sorry I don't have the stat for you easily. I just also wanted to give you another source. Maryland Hunger Solutions, also a great kind of hunger advocacy group, et cetera. So they came out with a 2023 hunger profile for every county in Maryland. So if you've never heard of them, they're also just, if you want to learn more, they're a good source. And this is, you can see they're looking at poverty level, which is a different measure than the food insecurity. You're seeing some different stats, but just to reinforce, you can see for the total of Maryland being the purple line, Montgomery County being that pinkish reddish line. And while we're below Maryland as a whole, our numbers are really quite high. And you can see they do have a senior poverty number there, which for the state in poverty is 9.1 and Montgomery County is 8%. Just trying to give other views and to give you a sense for 63,000 plus average participants per month in SNAP. So the numbers are, in my opinion, pretty astounding. Hunger, as you said in my intro, being a passion point for me. I just really can't, it doesn't sit with me that in our country that we have people that can't put food on their table. So anyway, that's my point. So I really kind of bombarded you with a lot of stats, but I feel like it's good to, and also in particular, as I mentioned, that we're finally getting statistics that are post-pandemic. And because it's been really hard to speak to anything that felt like firm or part of the reality, because the pandemic just threw everything into such a state. So what do we do? Giving you a brief snapshot of what we're serving. So when we started in August of 2020, there 100 families came through that very first week that we were out there. Our March of 2024, as a total for the month, we served 700 unique families, averaging 5,000 people per month. And then I just ran the statistics from this last week, Thursday, Friday, and this will give you an idea of our numbers. So we fed 267 households that came to us as clients with appointments at the BCC Rescue Squad. We delivered to 354 households with a total number of 1,420, and 646 of those were children. And I could have had the senior number. I just was running out of space. So I feel badly. We report it every week. We care very much, like we do, I promise. And so what are we giving them? Each family, and some of this will vary a little bit because I'm going to talk about our weekend bags. So some of the statistics on my deliveries are weekend bags, and we are not expecting those children to carry 25 to 30 pounds of food home. So just know these are sort of like in general, but there are some nuances that change that a little bit. But each family is walking away with 25 to 30 pounds of fresh produce, canned and dried food, dairy, bread, and cereal. And dairy in particular, one of our most expensive outlays is that we provide a dozen eggs every week to every family. We feel really strongly that a good protein source. And so we've been doing that from the very beginning. And even when they were $4, $5 a dozen, we gave every one of our families a dozen eggs.
No, is there any thought of working with like local chicken farms?
Yeah, yes. The problem is not the problem. We have had some donated. We actually, eggs have not been some, but we've had some meat donated from some of our local farms. I'm going to talk about the Farm to Food Bank program because that is definitely something that's out there. We need to have at least 400 dozen eggs every week. And so, in order to make sure that we meet that need and that commitment, some of the recovery part of that are building out. And it's certainly not a small farm that's gonna make sure that we can have those numbers. So we're open to any of that. We also have to deliver what we need to deliver. So it can be a combo depending on what it is, be it some protein or so as I said, half of them roughly come to our distribution center and the other half is delivered. Who do we deliver to? So there's two. MCCH stands for Montgomery County Coalition for the Homeless. So we work closely with them. They opened a new men's shelter when everyone was in the middle of the pandemic. It's a 200 bed men's shelter that's up by White Flint. So if you don't know that it's there, it's a beautiful modern facility. They do not have, they have a warming kitchen, but they don't have a kitchen. So they rely on food donations. And so we coordinate with two catering firms to deliver sheet pans of catered food every week, twice a week to the men's shelter. Two low-income senior high-rises. So we deliver to Waverly House, which is right in the heart of Bethesda, a high-rise building. We average about 85 households there. It depends on the week. We do it. We rotate it. And they did fill out questionnaires. So it's based on need because we're not just delivering to the entire building, not the entire building doesn't need it. And then also Lakeview Apartments, which is close to the Montgomery Mall. We deliver to them every week. There's a Coalition for the Homeless halfway house called Cordell Place, which is also right in the heart of Bethesda. That's permanent transitional housing. So these are folks that they've gotten out of their shelters, but these are not folks that are going to be able to get to full self-sufficiency. So they live in a building that has supports for them. There's 32 people that live there, and we provide them with food every week. And then and I'm going to get to this, 5 local schools. So we started with 1, and we're now up to 5. We won a county grant. I'm going to tell you about that. And we have some real goals to try to expand that more as well. Here's a quick snapshot. I want to make sure I leave time for questions. So these are some of the enhanced wraparound services that we're currently doing. And I'm going to highlight just a few of them, but we are helping people apply for SNAP. I don't know if any of you have ever had a reason to see the SNAP application. It's outrageously hard. It requires them to provide so much information. It asks questions that really seem inappropriate. And they also have to re-up it every 6 months. And if they don't receive that in the mail, if their housing were to be changed and whatnot, and they don't re-up it, it just ends. Nobody tries to find them. SNAP, it's amazing to me how difficult that really is. We have some conversational English classes. We distribute infant and toddler clothes, some women's undergarments and feminine hygiene products. We partner with Wider Circle, and I support the girls for that. And we're always putting children's books out there. There's a statistic that 60% of low-income children don't have a single book in their home. And so we are constantly trying to get books. We partnered with the Walter Johnson Book Fair and the BCC High Book Fairs and brought in books. But that's a side note. We're always looking for books. We put a box, at least, of books out every week. And there we have tables. And then I want to focus a little bit more on the County Resource Navigator. This is something I would give Montgomery County some great kudos. These navigators were their own nonprofit prior to the pandemic. And these are folks that are trained across all of the federal, state, and county supports. And in the pandemic, in trying to meet that reach, Montgomery County brought them in, and they're now county employees, and they're expanding the program, and they're incredibly helpful. So we have a navigator assigned to us. He comes twice a month. That's not nearly enough, but we'll take what we can get. And every time I'm with a council member or whatever, I'm like, you need to increase their budget because they're incredibly effective in helping our clients. So he comes in, he's got a printer, he's got his own laptop, et cetera, and he can look at the status of any federal program, any state program, or any county program. So if their SNAP is in limbo because of X document, he can tell them that right there on the spot. Like, I can be trained to help people with SNAP, but I don't have that level of visibility. And he is a resource for us, so I can refer clients when he's not there. But it's a really incredible program. And they have our particular navigator speaks Amharic, which is probably the perfect language for us, but as they spread their resources out, they obviously have Spanish and Korean and Mandarin and whatever. They do their best to try to place a navigator. But he's a wonderful man, and we're really grateful, and it's an incredible program and a resource, because really getting back to all those wraparounds and what people need, like if he's helping them get childcare or rental assistance, right? Like, we're moving the needle much further when he's there and getting them signed up for those things. So this is our community, right? And I wanted to show you that we just in this last year in our continuing evolution have defined a 48 square mile area. That is what we are defining as our service area. So in this post-pandemic and trying to meet the needs, try not to overlap the needs the county wants to make sure they're using their money wisely, et cetera, we felt a need to define an area that most represented our target clients, meaning they don't have a lot of other wraparound supports already in their area. So I will tell you, anyone who was already our client, we grandfathered. So we did not say, and now you can never come back here again. So we feel that's important to say. And I also want you to know that it's sort of implied, and we didn't say it in our mission, but I think it's really important. anyone who works in Bethesda is eligible to be a client at Nourishing Bethesda. And Bethesda is such a service oriented. So your house cleaners, your landscapers, your retail workers, your restaurant workers, everything that makes Bethesda requires a lot of service workers. And if they work in Bethesda, they can be a client of Nourishing Bethesda because they might have a county hub near their home, but they might not be able to get there in their operating hours because they're working a 12-hour day in Bethesda. So not everybody lives in this area, but this is our defined area. So if a new client comes to us, if they don't work in Bethesda and they live in Germantown, we're going to refer them to the county hub that's up there. Some of the other resources that are in their area, we'll send them with a little bit of food, but they're not going to be like our client. We've looked at some of the data around how frequently people come. The more that people are outlying, we have people coming from pretty far away in Virginia. We had a West Virginia person. We had some folks, some very far away. And what we tend to find is they come like maybe once, maybe twice, maybe once every 6 months when they're in a really, desperate, I would assume, situation, but they're not really a client. Like they're not coming and being a part and whatnot. So we're trying to really define like our clients and make sure that we can take care of them in the way that we want to. So this area was defined, just so you know, using elementary school boundaries. There's no really good way to do this because zip codes are horrendous. They're huge. If we were to bring in 20854, right, we would be way out if you go back to my heat map way over there. But you can see that we did come over and we included Bell's Mill so we could pick up Scotland and some areas over here that have needs. So we have some understanding of some of these pockets that are in there. And after looking at a lot of different ways to define it, we worked with Montgomery County Public Schools. This is their tool where you go in and key in where is your cluster school. They've created this for us and it's now a resource. So when a client comes in, we can show them the map and we've worked directly with them to have this be our boundaries. And we feel like it does about as good of a job unless we were going to really hire like a really savvy GIS firm to get us block group level and all around to define an area that makes sense for our support. And so in that, here's some of the places that we deliver, right? So Waverly is right there, Cordell Place, there's the men's shelter, the Lakeview Apartments that I talked about. And here's where we distribute at the rescue squad. And then St. John's Norwood is here. So it gives you a sense for where we're orienting. I just like to put up pictures after a bunch of things. These are real pictures of our food, of what it looks like when we distribute. Some of our real clients, one of our volunteers, there's a bus stop right here. It's a really great location because several bus lines come right by. And it just, I feel like, gives you an idea of the types of things. We partnered with the Latter-day Saints up at the corner of Glen, and they helped us do spring baskets just to be festive. We work with a couple different groups to provide really robust Thanksgiving packages. But this just sort of gives you an idea. And then this is our volunteers who are also very spirited. And we also honored, we have several of our volunteers that are very involved with the Indian gun violence. And I just love that picture because you can see the joy and the passion on both faces in that. So, okay, I'm going to pivot really quick. If you may or may not have heard that a huge initiative coming out of Montgomery County this year, headed by then Council President Gabe Albornoz, was the End Childhood Hunger. So in 2023, Montgomery County released a strategic plan to end childhood hunger. And so this is a huge initiative. It's getting, and I just have so much respect that they actually put on paper. It takes guts to actually say, we're going to end childhood hunger in our county, right? So there's a lot of energy and effort, money. They've stood up what's called the Office of Food Systems Resilience. I'll try to say that quickly, which is headed by the former president of the Montgomery County Food Council, and it reports directly into the county executive. And they've got a team of 5 that are really deep diving, doing data analysis, et cetera, to try and really take a crack at ending childhood hunger in Montgomery County. So it's a great time. I wanted to make sure you knew it because that's part of what's also driving some of our new initiatives. But you can see 13.9% of all children in Montgomery County are facing food insecurity. That's almost 34,000 children in our county. And I'm going to go quickly with this, but it affects their learning, right? It's detrimental, obviously, to their health, but their development and their well-being. It's associated with developmental risks, mental health, poor educational outcomes that really can affect a child's entire life. Montgomery County Public Schools has the Farm Free and Reduced Meal Program. And so to combat childhood hunger, even before the pandemic, the Farm program existed. I think the Farm program, we've all heard of that. And it's depending on the household size and income. So a family of 4 qualifies for free school meals if their income is below $39,000, which, I mean, in Montgomery County, that's like nothing, but that's the threshold. So other people can get subsidized, so they get reduced prices if they have a little bit higher income. And those lunches for a lot of the kids are really like the major meal that they get every day. So what about the weekends, right? What happens when these kids go home? So the answer is, and it's part of the childhood hunger program, and it's part of what we're really expanding into, and it's part of what your mission project is today, is sending kids home with a weekend backpack, is what we call it. So this is an example of one of our weekend backpacks. It contains a mix of 5 to 6 items, including fresh fruit. It can also have, you can see the applesauce, a dinner entree. And I've had people say, you know, that looks like processed food. The goal of this is that a 7-year-old could actually cook it for themselves if their parents aren't home, if they're working on the weekend, et cetera. And so it's a challenge when you're trying to put out, last week we put 230, I think, of these out. If you're trying to source like an organic whole grain microwave cup, like at that volume every week, it's really hard also to source. But we're looking for proteins. We're looking for things that will fuel them, that they also can prepare themselves. It's got breakfast, it's got snacks. It does not contain desserts. It does not require an implement to open. And you try to make it something that the child actually would eat, right? Because if there was some suggesting you should just send home like a microwavable rice packet that might, and like, well, I mean, the odds that a kid is, I mean, they might eat it, but so we're trying to strike that balance. So this year in October, the county asked us if we would pick up the weekend bag for Bethesda Elementary. We did not receive any funding for that. We privately funded that this whole year. And we agreed. We worked with their PTA, and we had the program up and running in a week and a half. And this is just a quote from their counselor that we really went above and beyond. In the winter, we provided some winter coats and mittens and things like that. So that gives you an idea. And what I didn't say also in this is the free and reduced meal kids, it's private. That is something that the county administers. It's not ours to know. So we don't ultimately know who it is that is receiving our bag. So I want you to know that we feel like the biggest impact we can have is to have their families come be a client and come get the 25 to 30 pounds of food, right? Versus the little weekend backpack. And each one of our weekend backpacks in 3 different languages, we invite the family to come and register to be a client of ours. So that is our way of trying, again, to reach those clients that we feel, might not know about us. How do we reach them? It's a very effective way to try to help the family in a larger way. So I wanted to just show you that in our area, we've identified these schools that have over 20% free and reduced meal kids. And you can see like Rosemary Hills, that's 41% of their students, right? So at the time that I prepared this, I was writing 2 grants to try to get some funding to expand to those schools. And I don't have an updated map for you because I have to beg a Montgomery College kid to make these maps for me. Recent progress is in March, we won a county grant and we've expanded. So in addition to Bethesda Elementary, we now deliver to Bethesda Chevy Chase High School. They have a pantry on site. So we're not delivering them weekend bags. We're delivering them the larger bags that they kind of spread out in their pantry, and the families go directly there. Chevy Chase Elementary, Rosemary Hills, and Wood Acres. And our intent is to expand again next year. And in particular, at least try to capture all of these schools. I will tell you, it wasn't perfect, this rollout of the county, in that the schools had to reply to a survey and in order to get into the grant process. And I don't know what happened, but as you can see, like Lux Manor and North Chevy and Rock Creek, they didn't answer the county survey. And so while we knew they had a higher percentage, we were not in the position of choosing which schools that we would take. We were provided the schools based on the way they answered the county survey. So as it rolls out into the fall, they are going to survey again. And I think there's a bigger push at this time to try to make sure they understand the consequences of how they answer that survey. And hopefully we can expand to all of our targeted and be funded by the county to do so versus going out and looking for other types of grants. But this gives you an idea of how it's grown and the fact that this strategic plan is making a real difference. So here's some pictures of our kids and our some families that come to us. I just think these are real people that are our neighbors that come, and they're wonderful. So I thought I would just share that with you. So let's get into I'm doing okay. Food recovery, I'm pivoting. 2023, we kept about 36,000 pounds of food out of the landfill. This is me trying to come to you with an Earth Day spin. When I worked at Nourish Now is is arguably the largest food recovery organization in Montgomery County. They have a fleet of refrigerated vans and they do incredible work. And so I would have some great statistics on how much carbon emissions and all those things. And I believe very strongly in food waste. But what I will tell you about food recovery is it's very challenging. So in the example of the caterers that we work with, where we get these sheet pans of food, when we operate out of our rescue squad, that's not a licensed kitchen. And we do not have the ability, like we did at Nourish Now, to break those down into smaller family size, et cetera. We're not in a licensed kitchen. So we're really limited on what we can recover. I'm happy to tell you that in 2023, I really should have that on the thing. We won a grant and we have purchased a van. It's not a refrigerated van, but when we're putting out the number of deliveries that I'm telling you, these were all in the back of volunteer cars, and having a van makes a huge difference for us. And so we are growing. It's not refrigerated, but so we just added a new catering partner, Spilled Milk, and Simply Fresh Events. One of their vice presidents on our board, an incredibly generous catering firm. They donate all the chickens that we give out, 500 chickens for our Thanksgiving, which is incredibly generous. And then week in and week out, we recover from Bethesda Bagels and Fresh Baguette. So that's what I'm showing you there. And we can process bread. I'm happy to tell you at the Rescue Squad. I think if you've been there, put on the gloves and divvy it up. So we have a refrigerator and a freezer over at our St. John's pantry. And then we have a walk-in and a fridge at the Rescue Squad. And I'm also happy to tell you that within the next month, we're getting another fridge and freezer at the Rescue Squad that we won in a grant. So we're expanding our capability to store more of this. So things like bagels and bread, if you freeze them, they actually can hold up. Other things not so well. So it also depends on the timing. We hand our food out on Thursdays and Fridays. So if somebody wants to hand us some beautiful produce on Saturday, that's probably not a good fit for us, right? Because it's going to be sitting there. So, we have our limitations, but we're definitely, we're growing and we're doing our best to meet that need. So I wanted to bring this up. Love this picture. Tracy and I go way back. Our oldest kids were the same year and we lived in the same neighborhood. So I have known Tracy. Our kids are turning 23 this summer. So I've known Tracy a really long time and she's wonderful.
And Marianne, right? Marianne Beardall as well?
Yes, absolutely. yeah, Marianne, our kids went to the same preschool and yeah, so, Harvest Share, your Harvest Share garden, giving garden provided 1,327 pounds of fresh produce to our clients last summer. So, it makes a huge difference. The fresh produce that comes in the summer, and it's just starting. We handed out, everybody this week got 2 huge bok choy and yucca and fresh green beans that were free from Capillary Food Bank because they're starting to get these larger amounts. So they also had our regular 13 to 15 pound bag of produce, but in the summer it becomes this incredible array of local fresh produce. And it's really exciting. So thank you for what you're doing with your giving garden. And it's a wonderful connection that it ends up coming to Nourishing Bethesda. The Farm to Food Bank program is a big initiative that's in Montgomery County as well, trying to really harness what we've got in the agricultural reserve. And it was really an outcome also of the pandemic, of recognizing self-sufficiency is important, right? Because when nobody could source some of this food, right, we actually have an agricultural reserve in our county that's local grown food. And I think there's a little bit different perspective on what it means to support an ag reserve when we've got all this growth, like protecting the fact that you have local farms and whatnot is important. So an additional 10,400 pounds of fresh produce was donated through Community Food Rescue, which is a division of MANA. And that's where the Farm to Food Bank, the county that they're kind of sponsoring, delivers through, is through Community Food Rescue. So Sandy Springs, Roslyn Farm, Common Root, Heinz Farm, Dodo Farm, and there was a question earlier. Some of that was some ground meat at times. It sort of depended on what it was, but it wasn't just produce. And we added Norman Farms, one of their big farmers markets. We're going to pick up 3 days a week. So we're really excited about that this year as well. So that gives you an idea, and knowing then that the county has made that a priority, and not just a priority to have it in the county, but to create a program that takes the farm fresh food to food banks rather than us buying produce from food distributors, so we can support each other, right? In the same way, right? If they're going to fund us to be able to provide produce, why not also be funding your farms that you're trying to support as well? So it makes a lot of sense. 2024 plan. So one of our biggest initiatives this year is that we are evolving from our current model. So let me go back, because I don't think I talked about this. We talked about when we started, we were in the parking lot and we'd throw the food in the back of the trunk and we'd wave. In 2022, we evolved to an appointment model. We registered them really as clients. So we stood up a client database. We have a software system called Link to Feed that does appointments. Everybody could come every 2 weeks at that point, and they made appointments, and we could find out more about them. We have them as a client in a database. So we've been in that model since mid 2022. But like the end all be all of a food pantry is to be a choice pantry. And what that just provides a lot more dignity, and it also meets people where they're at. So MANA has a choice pantry, just one out of all the ways that MANA feeds people, but they have one choice pantry that, people can get to. And there are a few. And so what that means is they walk in, our clients, we're going to know this is a 4-person family versus an 8-person family. And we're going to guide them to have like a personal shopping experience. So up in that banquet hall will be shelves of food, of which they could choose which ones they wanted to a certain quantity based on their household size, right? And so the bakery cart and the produce cart, they actually were delivered this week. Like, we're acting on this. We got a grant that we won, and this is the way these will look. We've got 2 of the bakery carts and 2 of these produce. And then this was just an example of someone else's, because we're still working that out. And the fridge and freezer that we're getting are glass front that are on wheels that we will roll in and out and have on display our eggs, any of our proteins, etc. So that's part of the choice pantry. And we have aspirations of July. Now we're starting to say, maybe it'll be September. We'll see. We're getting there. Every thing is always just a little bit harder than you think it is. But by the end of 2024, we will be a choice pantry, and we're excited to share and maybe have you come be a part of that. It will change our packing nights. We won't be packing like we're packing right now, right? We'll still have to package our deliveries, and as you saw, those are like half of what we do. So they'll still be packing. These are the nuances we're trying to figure out, right? Is like, how much do we pack? How much do we not pack? But the great thing about a choice pantry also is we can get a lot more culturally specific food. We can get dietary specific food, things to sort of, try to meet, because we, of course, if you've ever been at one of our distributions outside, we have kind of what we call like our give and take table. And many people are unloading things that they're not going to eat from our bag and taking some things that maybe someone else took out. So we sort of find a space to address that with them right now, but this is where we're going. So it's exciting that what we're hoping to do with more of our group engagements are over at our St. John's. We've really expanded our pantry over there. And so we're hoping to do a lot more food drives where we have a sorting and restocking and getting that organized over there. And we've got a parish hall there that we can do that. So it's really important to us to continue to be able to work with groups. That's how we get to know folks like you and sort of expand our reach. So we're also going to, we're looking to get some more like direct health screening options, which we're not providing right now, fiscal literacy, and maybe some dietary cooking needs. We are currently doing, I'm trying to make sure I leave time for questions. What else do I have here? Other ways that you guys can help. This is where I'm at, I guess. Continuing to volunteer. We have a sign up genius off our website. If you want to come be a part of our food distribution, if you want to learn how to do client intake, like there's a way. We have 70 volunteers that come weekly. A food drive, right? We now have this sorting center and pantry, and we could do a group engagement with a group drive where we bring that food over, we sort it together. We can show you over there. Our packing events, like today, you're doing a weekend bag packing. And then we're always looking for an egg or a milk, or at the holiday time, we're looking for pie partners. So when we're trying to get out, right, and knowing that these are expensive items or whatnot. So, looking for a more of a longer term engagement or something like that. Those are things that can really help move the needle for us. And fine, this is when you last came. So you're already such a great partner. This was just, I think, a month and a half ago, maybe. Yeah. And then, really, we are making a difference. We're feeding a lot of people, and it requires our community to do it. And so we thank you, and we're making a difference, and we're glad you're with us. So thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions. I didn't mean to talk too long here. You guys are like, where am I? Thanks for your time and your interest. Yeah, we appreciate it.
Any questions or? Tammi, I don't remember, are y'all part of the Kind Works, Kind Soup program or not?
No, not that I'm aware of. No.
And I don't know that it would fit in with your model, but they have places where you can make soup according to their procedures at home
Okay.
and deliver them to a food place
Interesting.
and frozen.
Frozen.
So you have a quart size of frozen homemade soup.
Well, that's, I saw that they're going to be here today. When we have our freezer in the choice version, they probably would be a great fit. Right now, I mean, we could accommodate it to a certain scale where we have a small freezer at the rescue squad that we could like then just put them out. That's what we do with like frozen protein. But it probably in the choice model, we're hoping to get more of those type, right? The restaurants tap into that a little bit more, et cetera. But the packaging part of it all is a big part because we can't make it that family size and that packaging is expensive. So we often run in, so that is a barrier with some of the restaurants or some things. But that probably would be really a wonderful fit when we get into that.
when you move to the choice model, they'll, instead of them taking the grocery cart out, your clients will come in and go through the stacks, through the shelves.
Yes,
They'll come inside the building upstairs.
yes.
Mhm.
And we'll use the grocery cart, like they'll be shopping, so they'll still
Right.
use the cart,
Right.
but, yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yep, and it'll probably take them a little longer.
Mhm.
So we're gonna spread out. That's part of getting our Wednesdays. We'll probably open some Wednesdays and try to spread the same number where there's enough time, so that it doesn't become two. But I don't know. It's
Maybe
crazy.
it's
People
yourself.
like, yeah, you try to control when people are gonna come and it's a little, our Friday mornings are just
Oh.
really busy. We try to spread it, but it just, I don't know. You can only, with, people, they have a time they
can't.
think about coming and when they can, and it's hard to break that. So anyway, but
Well, thank you so much, though. Really, really informative. And
Good.
you're gonna be here afterwards
Yeah.
in Fellowship Hall,
Yeah.
after.
Yep.
From 12, at 12 for the fair. Del, did you have a last question?
So just out of curiosity, you mentioned the questionnaire that had inappropriate questions.
Yeah.
What did you consider an inappropriate question?
Well, a quick short answer to that, because I don't have it all. I mean, I remember a couple things that I was like, what? But I was really shocked that if you have ever been in prison, you're not eligible for SNAP. And you actually have to ask someone when they're filling out the paperwork whether they've ever been incarcerated. And I just felt really like,
For any reason?
for any reason.
So not
Ever.
felony versus.
No.
And ever.
And there's there's advocates that are working just on that. So, I mean, look, they come out, they've got it on their record. It's hard for them to get a job. And the federal government will not let them get food assistance.
So I would.
So that one really stuck with me. And I remember when I read it, I just was like, I don't want to ask someone that like that, right? Like I imagine that's a really tough one, but yeah, so that's my quick answer on one of them. Yes.
Bill, you might want to read the book Made
Oh,
by
man. Yeah.
Stephanie. Have you
Yeah.
read it? Yeah, I
Yeah.
just think that gives a big eye opener about
Yeah.
all the forms and all the process of trying to.
People
to get
give up,
assistance.
even when
Yeah,
they need
give
food,
up.
they're just like,
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
hard. I can't, I had to take off time of work and then that exacerbated my problem. I couldn't make the appointments and they just say,
Yeah,
and they go to their food pantries.
right,
I
right.
mean, that's what
right.
that's what
It's
they do,
interesting.
right?
Or even years ago, that book Nickel and Dimed.
Yes.
Right,
It was
right.
so
That was
interesting
powerful.
about working for.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
It's
having just filled out FAFSA, that was tough. Wow, it was enough to do you in.
Yeah.
and, like,
Give up.
necessarily about
You
food.
could give up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
Right. Let's see, next week we've got David Rennett coming back, teaching about Presbyterian beliefs, the sort of foundations of the catechism.
Part 2. Right?
Part 1 and part 2 for the next 2 weeks, yeah. All right, take care. Have a great day, Ed. Thanks for joining us, and John.
Thanks for your interest.